You're listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, with service members from across the military sharing their stories of combat and survival. And now, here's your host, Mark Zeno.
Welcome into the Hazard Ground Podcast. Once again, thank you for joining us each and every week. We certainly appreciate you guys being part of the Hazard Ground community. A couple of notes here before we get started. As always, please follow us on all the social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Keep up with the shows, guests, episodes, what we have coming up in the future. Also, leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Those help out so much. We love to hear back from you guys. Not only that, it helps grow the audience for the podcast. Want to remind you guys about our great deal with Amazon. If you're an Amazon shopper, all you got to do from now on when you do your Amazon shopping is go to our website, hazardground.com first. There's an Amazon banner. Click on that banner and then do your Amazon shopping as you normally would. Whatever you need to buy, go get. When you purchase stuff from Amazon by going through the hazardground.com website, a portion of the proceeds are going to come back to us. We're going to donate all of that to the great charities that you've heard here on the Hazard Ground Podcast. So whatever one of our veterans has working with an organization or wants us to donate to a charity, that money that you guys spend on Amazon goes right back to them. So it's a great way for you guys to help out with the veterans community, donate some money without ever really having to dip into your own pocket, just by going to hazardground.com, clicking on the Amazon banner, and doing your shopping there. Before we get to this week's guest, I want to remind you this week's episode is brought to you by our latest sponsor, Knife Country USA. Knife Country USA has the largest selection of knives, cutlery, and accessories on the internet. With over 30,000 models from 500 plus manufacturers, Knife Country USA is confident they have the perfect item for you. In addition to a tremendous selection, no other company can beat Knife Country USA's commitment to exceptional customer service. The owner of Knife Country USA personally guarantees he'll do whatever necessary to make sure you're 100% satisfied with your Knife Country USA purchase. And now Hazard Ground listeners will get a special discount on all Knife Country USA purchases. Just go to our website, hazardground.com, click on the Knife Country USA banner on the sponsors page. Enter the coupon code HAZARD1, that's right, HAZARD the number 1, at checkout and get 15% off your entire order. That's HAZARD1, HAZARD the number 1, coupon code at checkout to get 15% off your entire order when you click on the Knife Country USA banner on the Hazard Ground sponsors page. Thanks for your time, guys. Now on to this week's episode. Joining us this week is a former Marine Staff Sergeant who lost both of his legs in Iraq when his Humvee ran over a double-stacked anti-tank mine. He's been through over 30 surgeries, all of his recovery. He currently works for a veterans advocacy group called Workshop for Warriors. And even though you've never actually met him, you may have seen his picture on Twitter because it was retweeted by the President of the United States. He is John Jones, and we welcome him to the Hazard Ground Podcast. John, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. You kind of became famous in the social media world by accident, only because you took a photo that was used for what it was never intended to be used for. We'll get to all that, but let's start way back at the beginning and why you joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow. Why I joined the Marine Corps is because the Army wouldn't let me come in. Okay. No, I'm serious. I'm colorblind. So whenever I was in high school in Oklahoma, I go and I said, I want to follow in all of my family's footsteps of being in the Army. My uncle was a Green Beret. My cousin, she just retired as a one-star general. My grandfather was a B-52 pilot in World War II. And, my other grandfather was a medic in World War II, and keep going back, and we've been in every single war since America started. So my family has, and they've all been Army. So I decided I'm going to join. I hated high school anyway, so I was ready to get out there and do my part and be a part of the lineage of being in the Army. So I go down, I take my ASVAB, I did really well. Go right straight into the physical, pass that, no problem. And then it came to the color vision. And they said, okay, what color is this book in the dots? And I said, 26, got that one. And then they go, what's the next one? I have no idea. Kept going, and they said, well, let's look at the other thing. And they put a red, a white, and a green light. And they said, okay, tell us the color. White. And they said, well, you failed. You can't even change bedpans in the Army, son. And I said, well, this sucks. So my Army recruiter didn't talk to me the whole way home from Oklahoma City up to Edmond, and he kicks me out and he says, thanks for wasting my time.
Whoa.
And I said, okay. I go over and I look at the other posters, and I said, well, maybe the Army won't let me do this, but maybe I can go in somewhere else. So I looked at the dog dish on top of the Navy guy, and I said, no, I'm not going to be in the Navy. Forget that. I don't want to wear bell bottoms. Then I looked at the Air Force. I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going to be in the Air Force. So I looked at the Marine Corps, and I was like, well, their uniform looks pretty sexy. Let's try them out. Walk in. I said, look, I just came back from MEPS. I passed everything minus color vision. Can I join? And he says, yeah, we got a waiver for that. So he walks over there to the Army guy and grabs the jacket and grabs my jacket, and he looks at everything and he goes, oh yeah, we got a waiver for that. When do you want to join? I said, well, as soon as possible. He goes, okay, there you go. So that's how I joined the Marine Corps.
That's kind of funny.
Best decision I ever made.
That's when you were telling the story originally, if you remember the movie Forrest Gump, you reminded me of Lieutenant Dan. When Forrest Gump is saying Lieutenant Dan had a family member who died in every single conflict in American history. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. So you have that in common with Lieutenant Dan Taylor of Forrest Gump lore.
And I have no legs. Yeah. Hey, Lieutenant Dan.
My God, I didn't even think of that. Wow.
Yeah.
That is uncanny ironic. Oh, my God. All right. Well, we'll get to that here in a moment.
There you go. Foot insert in mouth.
Yeah, well, that's the first time this happened on this podcast. All right. So you join the Marine Corps, go to boot camp. Kind of what year is this time frame wise, and where is your first duty assignment? Give me the beginning of your career.
Oh, geez. So I joined my senior year, 94, 95 time frame, went into boot camp. Graduated boot camp, went to Camp Pendleton for SOI training in 95 and, did the whole thing, became a machine gunner, and then went to my first duty station was the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines. And that was a Gulf company, the gunfighters. And stayed there for 3 years, did a pump over to Okinawa, and then I cross-decked over to 1-7, which is still in 29 Palms, because I was trying to do the smooth boot thing to not go back to Okinawa because I didn't really like it. Well, that ended up biting me in the butt, and I ended up going 2 more times to Okinawa with a new unit, another, 4 years in 29 Palms. So in the desert. So I ended up staying there. Then I finally re-enlisted again and went to Marine Corps Security Forces as an instructor trainer at physical security and CQB and non-lethal weapons and technology, and a cadre instructor and teaching the Navy how to protect themselves on their bases. From there, it just kept going back to the desert. So I went to Bahrain, to Manama, Bahrain, and I was stationed there for, I think, 14, 15 months, and ended up being there, helped out with Operation Southern Watch, OIF-1, and then left back, and the recruiter or the monitor said, okay, where do you want to go? I said, I'd like to go to small craft company, and I want to learn boats and things for the infantry. And said, no, you're going to 29 Palms. I said, I just came from there to go into the security forces. So why? And he goes, well, there is a war going on in the desert. I said, okay, well, because you got more desert time than most Marines do. And I said, okay, well, send me back. So I went back to 1-7 to Suicide Charlie, and went back again on my deployment, and ended up getting hurt.
John, before you unpacked a lot there, I want to kind of get back to it. Where were you on 9/11, and give me that experience?
Oh, on 9/11, I was at Sergeant's course on 9/11. So we were going through our school and our program in our school for sergeants as our PME. And that's where I first saw, plane 1 crash in. And, we didn't really think anything like it, because it's not been the first time that a 747 has crashed into a building, anywhere else in the world. So, and that's actually funny. Another plane crash, I think in the 40s, hit the Chrysler building. So it wasn't anything new. It was, we just saw it, and I was like, oh, okay. And then once the second one hit, then we were like, okay, so this is a coordinated attack. And then the Pentagon happened, and we were non-essential personnel had to, stay there, and essential personnel had to, go back to their units and things like that. And, we called back to our unit, said, hey, what's the deal? Where are we going? Do you need us to do anything? We're here. We're close to DC. And they said, just stay at school. We're okay. We got everything else covered. So then we ended up going back early anyway from there. So it was, from school. So we graduated and went early and went back to our unit and started, gearing up and ramping up for OAF and OEF, Enduring Freedom. So that's what that happened.
Did you think that when it happened that automatically you guys were going to war? Like, what was a lot of your guys' fellow Marines saying at that time?
Yeah, it was pretty much okay. The Super Bowl has happened for us. We're going now. And the 13th was the first coordinated airstrikes, so we knew we were going. We just didn't know when. We didn't know how many guys were going to be sent over or anything. And then, Iraq kicked off in 2003, and that's where, we really started to ramp up and everything. When
did you find out you were going to Iraq? I know you mentioned it a moment ago, but I guess more of the whole experience at the unit that you found out you were going.
Oh, well, I mean, as far as in 2002, we knew we were getting ready to go because we were setting up, Patriot missiles on Bahrain in Chiquiza Air Base. So we knew we were going. We just didn't know when and what time frame or anything because, you never know. But we're just prepping for an Operation Southern Watch to ensure everything was put forward, got there, set up, the base was secured, the embassy was secured, the consulate was secured. We had to take care of riots. We had to do all different sorts of things, and everybody's up in arms at that time. And then whenever the war did kick off, we were ready to go. And the fast units were Fleet Anti-Terrorism teams were going in country and out of country so many times during that time frame that it was just in and out really quick, small stints because it's not a fully combat team. It's a specialty team. So we did down pilots. They did small operations, securing oil fields, and then waiting till the big green machine moves forward and takes over, and so small things like that. So it was very specific and very minor at that time.
Now, were you part of OIF-1, the initial invasion, or no?
Not the initial invasion.
Okay, so
no, but I did do my time in and out from there.
Were you like itching to get into the fight? Were you one of those guys who was just like, come on, this can't happen fast enough?
Well, of course. I mean, you train for that your whole career, and it ends up happening. And then whenever you finally get to in country and you're there for a full tour, that's the full deal. And you really didn't know what that was going to be like until the second time that we went over, and it was like, oh great, there we are, we're taking care of business. But it didn't really hit us until we lost our first set of guys. Right. And then once that happened, then it was like, okay, gloves are fully off. We're going crazy on them.
Do you remember that experience? What happened? Where you guys were, and how many guys you lost?
Yeah. So we ended up. So one of my lieutenants, Ron Winchester, Naval Academy grad, played football for the Navy, and Ron was there along with Captain Rao, who was promoted posthumously to major after he passed. They were doing the left seat, right seat, transition time frame. Probably, I think, within a week of being there in country at our base, we ended up losing four of our guys.
Really?
And that was lieutenant, a captain, company commander, weapons platoon commander, and two Marines. I think four or five guys. Yeah.
Now, were you stationed in Baghdad? Where were you when you got to Iraq?
No, we were in Al-Qaim.
Okay.
Al-Qaim. Yeah, it was up north by the Syrian border.
Yeah. So was it? What was the circumstances of how they were killed?
They were coming up and they were looking at a bridge, and one of the they had put a couple of 155s shells inside of this HESCO barrier with buttload of explosives on top of it.
Yeah.
And they command detonated it, and it ended up, blowing all of the blood vessels in Lieutenant Winchester's body. It ended up, very damaging Major Rao, and it chopped one of the guys in half up on the turret. And then, so I mean, it was very, very gruesome at that point. And then we ended up losing them, everybody, during that time frame. And there was, it hit my unit very, very hard to lose a company commander and a lieutenant, and, the guys. And so then that's pretty much whenever, the gloves were off at that point, and we were out for.
Were you feeling more anger at that point in time than anything?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you lose people that you've trained with and that you've slept with, then fought with and dug fighting holes with and everything else like that. Yeah, I mean, those are your brothers.
But so no
that's
fear?
Your family. No, I wasn't fearful at all. No, because I knew that my guys to the left and to the right had my back, and I wasn't ever scared going out of the wire at all until the day I got hurt. Actually, the 2 days before I got hurt, I had a weird feeling that something was going to go on, and I never had that feeling ever before.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I sound surprised is because, in my deployments there, particularly the first one, I was there in 05 and 06, the first time around, close to when you were there. I can recall several times when I went outside the wire that it just sort of, there were mornings I would wake up and just feel like today's the day. Like it would happen routinely. There were some days you felt like Superman when you woke up, like nothing was going to go wrong, like you were ready for the fight. And other days it was just one of those things where it was like, well, I don't know how many times you can roll the dice for something bad happens. I'm surprised that you never had that feeling.
No, I never did. I mean, it was, I don't, it was, we had this running joke, they were like, "Hey Jones, where are you going?" And I go, I'm going to go pick a fight,
From Braveheart.
Yeah.
I'm going to go pick a fight.
And, from that, that just set the tone. I mean, we would take our pre-combat shits before we went out, because you never wanted to do
You never want to have to go when you're going.
You never want to have to go whenever you're out the wire.
Yeah.
No. And, so, I mean, I never really was scared because my guys were good. I mean, we trained, if we weren't outside the wire, we were doing training. We were doing mag changes. We were doing call for fire. We were doing everything that we possibly could. I mean, I had 75 guys that I was in charge of, and I felt safe with my guys. I mean, there was nothing that was difficult. I mean, even whenever we were doing helo ops and helo insertions, I was happy. I was good. I mean, it was like, never felt anything. I mean, yeah, we got rocketed a lot. We got bombed a lot. We got everything, but it just never seemed to register until the day that I found out that I was going down Mine Road, and I was taking all of my company assets from Alkheim to ASP Wolf, which we had to take care of some reservists to take over their AO. And that was the only bad, weird feeling I had. I looked over at my...
I'm sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, take me through that morning, January 3rd, 2005. You get out of bed. Is everything normal that day so far?
Yeah, well, actually, it happened like, my feelings started like 2 days prior whenever we were getting our brief.
Okay.
Right? And then 24 hours prior, it really got even more heavily that something was wrong. And I leaned over to my buddy Jax, Staff Sergeant Jax, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm not having a good feeling about this." And he goes, "Yeah, I don't know. Something's off about this. I mean, the Army was supposed to take care of us and, mine clear the route, because we were going down Mine Road. And we just didn't have a good feeling. Well, the Army left the night prior instead of the morning of, and well, yay, they screwed us over because they had another mission that they had to do. But so that gave the insurgents 12 hours to implant and re-mine the whole road. So that morning it was, business as usual, take care of everything. And I switched out. I had a feeling that I needed to switch vehicles. So I was in the number 14 of a 28 vehicle convoy moving my whole company's assets. And I was like, okay, I need to be more up front. So I'm going to take over number 7 vehicle. and I switched my manifest and switched my roster, gave it to the COC, and I was like, hey, I'm switching out. I'm moving to 7. Lance Corporal White is moving to vehicle 14. Wow. And they said, okay, good to go. And vehicle 7 was the vehicle that got hit, which was mine.
Oh, wow.
Now, so it was
let me ask you one thing real quick, John. I mean, there's fate plays a role in all this, but go back to the uneasy feeling you had. Did you ever raise that uneasy feeling with your chain of command or express that with them?
Yeah, I was pissed that we didn't have tank support. Yeah.
And so what did they say when you told them that, look, this doesn't smell right, this is setting up poorly for us? What did they say? They
were like, well, we got to go. We have a timeline to get to. And I'm like, okay, well, can we have tanks? Can we have tracks? Can we have something heavy in front of us to, I'd rather blow one of those tanks up than, blow a track off than, blow somebody up. And it was just a command decision, and I went with it. I had to, and had to drive forward. So we just drove out. 9:00 in the morning. I said a prayer on my way out, and it just got really eerie on the way out, and then it just went to peaceful calm after we were fully outside the wire, and I hit my 3rd radio check with the lead vehicle, and as soon as I was hitting the 3rd radio check, the bomb went off, or the double stack anti-tank mines went off, and I went 25 feet in the air and landed behind.
Where were you in the vehicle? Where were you seated?
I was the TC.
Okay, so you're in the passenger seat, front passenger seat. The moments right before, and it's funny how you talk about the calm, because I can 100% relate. That nervous feeling I talked about, where you're having something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Once the vehicles start rolling, it kind of goes away. Like it's just, it's almost like what professional athletes talk about. Once the game actually starts, all the jitters go away, and you just get laser focused on what you're doing. So you don't really think about any of the emotions or anything that you have time to think about while you're prepping and kitting up and getting ready to go out the gate. That said, you start rolling and you're like, oh, okay, you kind of settle into a groove and you're like, this isn't that bad. Okay, everything's going the way we thought it would. But take me up to the leading up to the few moments. You made your 3rd radio check, right? Do you put down the hand mic? Talk me through it.
No, actually, I had my coffee, so I put my coffee on the small
the important things
dashboard. Yeah, I had my coffee and my Copenhagen, and I put both of them up on top of the little bitty small dashboard, and I'm sitting there, and then as soon as I key up for my 3rd radio check, it went off.
Did you see a light? Did you hear anything? What happened?
Well, actually, you know what? Let me back up. I told my driver, stop hitting the freaking potholes, because that's where they're going to put them. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, not a problem. And then, the second time he hit it, I literally looked over at him and I hit him. I'm like, stop hitting the fucking potholes.
Right.
And he goes, well, but we're in the tracks. I said, okay, great. Well, don't hit every freaking pothole, please. And then all of a sudden I hit the mic, and I was about ready to, checkpoint Charlie was good. And then boom, I got launched. And then, so I woke up at the back of the Humvee, and I was like, I look at the back ass end of it, and I'm like, oh, this is great. How the hell did I get here? I should be in the truck. And so then I was like, all right, well, this is great. So I look at, I look down, and, I'm laying on my back, and I'm like, okay, well, my legs are still there. Everything's still there, and nothing hurt at that point. So I check my chest to make sure I don't have any, did my own preventative stuff, and I palpitated my legs, and I felt my nuts to make sure that they were still there.
Yep.
They were. And then, because that's the most important thing.
You know what, John, sorry to cut you off, but I can't tell you how many times we've talked to people who have been in explosions, all males, and the first thing they check is for their nuts. It is uncanny how that is the most important thing in all that chaos. As long as that's there, everything else is negotiable.
Everything else is good.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
So I'm feeling my thighs, and I felt there was a little blood on my hands, and I had a big piece of shrapnel sticking out my leg, and I was like, all right, well, if that's the least of my problems, I think I'm okay. So I go to stand up, and that's whenever the pain fully hit me, because the feet were like jello, and that's whenever it felt like Mama Cass was in a steamroller just cruising right over my feet at that point. And I was like, fuck, it's a bad day now. And, so then I'm yelling at my guys, stay in the truck, because we hit a mine or something, stay in the truck, and they're like, holy shit, Staff Sergeant got vaporized, and, because I'm not in the seat. And then Doc ran over and he stepped on another mine.
Oh, man.
Getting to me, but it didn't go off because because it was another double stack. So basically my truck was supposed to be, for one of the Dragon wagons, for one of the fuel trucks to hit 1, 2, and 3 right simultaneously. But it didn't. It hit my truck. And then so he ran over one, the truck slid and unearthed 2 more double stacks right in front of it. And then so basically it was like ready to go for hit 1, slide, hit 2, and then slide, hit 3 if possible. So that's what it was. That's what they were.
Was anybody else thrown from the vehicle?
My gunner went, I was at a soft top. So
okay,
I was in a non-up armored vehicle on January 3rd. So he went up 10 feet, landed in my seat. And then I went 25 and landed behind. So
was he okay? Was everybody else okay?
Yeah, everybody. Well, I mean, he had a concussion.
Right.
I tried to get him his Purple Heart and everything, but they said, well, because he didn't get put on the chopper, he doesn't get one. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Wow.
So that kind of pissed me off. So he ended up being okay. He ended up having real bad headaches for a couple of months. He had a really bad concussion, but he fought through like we always do. And then then I was the only one that got hurt, and out of my platoon I was the only one that lost anything out of my platoon. So I didn't lose a life, we didn't lose anybody in my platoon, and in my company we didn't lose. We lost a couple of MVGs and a pair of legs. That's what my CO said. So it was a good deployment for everybody to come home.
Well, yes, in the grand scheme of things. Take me back to, okay, so you realize that your legs are just jacked up, okay? What's the next sequence of events? How quickly do you get to medevac and get choppered out of there?
Well, I get there, they're working on me. They do the fleshotomies right there on the battlefield because my legs are blowing up like, balloons. And so they did that, shot me up with a little bit of morphine.
But you said you weren't in pain, right?
Well, not until I stood up, not until I tried to stand up. And then it was like, it freaking hit me harder than a ton of bricks.
Gotcha.
And then after that, after they hit me up with the morphine and I was passing in and out of consciousness, because of the pain and everything else, and then put me on the chopper, airlifted me back to Alkheim, to our fist, and, ended up getting in there. From there, I'm getting off the chopper. I give everybody a thumbs up because my whole, all the other staff NCOs and officers are, run into the fist to figure out, they knew I was hit and I was the security element leader. So one of my corporals had to take over for me and set up all the company's gear at the new fob. So as I was, laying there, I remember, my CO, Captain D'Antoni, I was retired Lieutenant Colonel D'Antoni. He, reaches down and gives me a kiss on the forehead. I was not happy. I was cussing people out, cussed out my battalion commander, my sergeant major.
Why?
Because they didn't give us the support that we needed. And I was like, my guys are still out there and I'm not going to be there, and then, so that all subsided. And then whenever they took off the boots, I was freaking done. I was done at that point because my feet were terrible. They stabilized me, did as much surgery as I possibly could at that facility, and then transported me to Balad. And I guess, the flight over, I don't remember it. And I woke up in Germany and they said, you have family here. And I was like, what? Where am I? I don't even know where I'm at. And so I underwent like 7 surgeries in Balad, and then they transported me over to Germany, and I did another 7 surgeries there.
When did they actually amputate your legs? When and where?
Not until I got back to Bethesda.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there was hope that you could save them.
No, they were pretty much dying, but they didn't want to amputate them there. They wanted to amputate them in Bethesda, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay, for sanitary safety reasons, kind of deal.
Navy medicine, who knows?
That too.
And so then I get there, my feet are black. They look like Fred Flintstone. I wore a size 15 and they're about a size 20 at this point. And they're black and they're starting to die and everything. And they said, well, you have family here. And I was thinking to myself, well, I don't know any family that's over here in Germany. And my family's in Oklahoma at the time. And I was like, what? They said, oh, yeah, you have family here. And then I see my sister-in-law's sister's husband come in, and I was like, oh shit, hey, what are you doing here, Rob? And he was in the Air Force, and he did all the flight medevacs, and I guess he was on that bird that medevaced me back to Germany, and that's what he did. He did the transport back and forth. And so then I was like, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh yeah, I heard great stories about you. You're pretty handsy with the nurses. I said, well, I wish I could fucking remember it. And so then he was like, yeah, you're doing okay. I've been keeping tabs with the family back home. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And then, I went through another couple of surgeries there to make sure I was safe enough to fly home and to Bethesda. And that's where I get there. And my mom was there. My brother was there. My cousin and, my fiance at the time, she was there. And then they said, well, we have to take a leg. And I was like, all right. So I made the X on the leg, and they said, okay, well, we'll see you. So that was about a 12-hour surgery.
You got to choose the leg?
Well, no, I had to. I was awake, and they said, well, you need to make sure, we've got to take your leg. And I'm like, okay. And they said, make an X on my leg. I said, okay. So I made the X on my leg, and then they wheeled me into surgery. And,
but wait, what was the X for? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
To make sure that they didn't chop off the wrong one.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm like, well,
yeah.
I'm like, what are they asking you to choose one leg here? Which one?
Yeah. So, and then after that, they said, well, we were able to save. We had one good vein in your left leg, so we were able to keep that, but you're probably not going to be able to use it ever again. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. So I went through, but every 24 hours I was in a surgery in Bethesda for, a month and a half. And then from there, then we did, then I was transferred to San Antonio, Texas. And that's where I went through my rehab. And 10 months later, my left foot was just so terrible and I hated it. And my prosthetic side was my good side. And I said, okay, elective amputation. And I was going to have the Army do it, but they wouldn't do it because it was still a viable leg. And I said, well, hey, it's a good thing about being a Marine. I, go to the Navy docks. So I went back to Bethesda, saw Dr. McGuigan, my doc, and I said, hey, this thing is killing me. It's not healing right. And it's basically, club foot, and I'm active, and I want to be able to be there with my kids and, run around with them and not be, an invalid. And so they said, okay, yep, we should have probably taken it whenever we took the other one. So they took it, and then I was good after that.
All right. Let's go back to when you were cursing everybody out, your lieutenant colonel and everybody. You were angry in that moment. Are you still angry when you think back to the situation you were put in?
No, I'm not.
Why?
Well, whenever I look back at it, as being a leader, you have to make difficult choices, right? You have to make difficult calls. And the assets that we had and not knowing what was going on up in Huseba, where they needed those assets up there for a firefight and to take care of, Huseba, while we were going through was just, what was the better avenue, what could save the most lives, right? So the save the most lives was Huseba whenever we were clearing out that area of operation. So we needed the tanks and we needed the armor there versus sending one company's assets to the other side. So, I know my CO my lieutenant colonel, he had a really big problem with it. And, he felt like he made the wrong decision. And whenever I went back to my unit for the Marine Corps birthday, when everybody got back, and I was like, sir, I'm sorry that I was cussing you out, but I realize being in a command situation and things that you have to make certain decisions that I'm sorry that I cussed you out. And he was like, you know what? I did make the wrong decision, but I felt like I made the wrong decision. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I'm alive. I'm not dead. Right. And he goes, well,
Sure.
that's true. And I said, yeah, there you go. And then,
Was it refreshing to hear him say he made the wrong decision? Were you expecting that
well,
from?
of course. Well, I mean, but he's a guy, right? I mean, we're all men, right? I mean, we all make
Sure.
mistakes. We all make, tough decisions and the wrong decisions at some points, or, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you didn't make every single decision the correct decision whenever you were over there, and I know I didn't make, every single decision correctly. But you live with those things, and I mean, we joke, we have beers together. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're still brothers, right? You just everybody makes mistakes, and in war, everybody still makes mistakes. But even a bad mistake has a good outcome on the end side of it, then that's a success. So that's what I chalk it up for. And I have no ill feelings toward anybody in my unit. We took care of each other. So.
Go back to the decision you made to move from the middle of the convoy in Vehicle 14 up to Vehicle 7. Who did you switch with, and did you ever converse with that person? Did he ever converse with you after the fact?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So Lance Corporal White and was a kid, and he was, and I think it was something that told me to take over number 7 for some reason. And he was about to have a baby, his first child. His wife Maggie was, and I'm still really good friends with them. They were, all having their first child and everything like that. He was young in the Marine Corps and everything. So whenever I took over and I got hit and everything else, and then, I didn't talk to him for, while we were all, they were still over there, and then I'm back and going through rehab and everything else. But whenever we I saw his son Ben and everything whenever I came back to the unit, and he was like, thank you. And I was like, thank me for what? And he goes, thanks for taking the spot. And I was like, no big deal, man. Hey, better me than you. And then so it was just, I know all of his kids. I mean, he lives in Colorado. I mean, he moved up to by where I was. We're really good friends. We're still, we hang out all the time whenever I'm around. And, it's just something that you don't stop being brothers whenever you're done wearing the cloth. I mean, you're always going to be brothers. Yeah.
Why better you than him?
Well, I was older. I was older. I was more mature, and I already had, I did 12 years in the Marine Corps, and he was, young in the Marine Corps. So, yeah, I would, that's just like with anything. I mean, you would take a bullet for your brother no matter what. And, well, I took a bomb, so it's okay. I mean, love him to death. And, so I wouldn't want it. I would have felt bad if he would have got hit and I didn't make that decision. So.
Does he have any survivor's guilt that you know of?
No, we pretty much laugh at everything.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. Well, no, that's good. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of us when those fateful decisions are made, that seem so innocuous at the time, that seem to have no real impact on anything. And the bad stuff happens, and people end up, by the grace of God, being okay. There's a lot of, why not me? When you said better you than me, there's the other side of that is why not me? Why didn't it happen to me? Because it was supposed to.
Well, I'm sure that he had a few, issues like that, but I mean, we don't talk about it. I mean, whenever I met his, whenever he moved back to Colorado and I met his little kids, and they were like, hey, just so you know, Ben, you haven't met Uncle John you haven't been around Uncle John for, 7 years, but he's the guy who saved Dad's life, and that's how they talk to their kids. And I'm like, nah, I didn't save his life. I just didn't want him to, be 6'4" instead of 5'7" like he is. So, and, I mean, we joke about it, but, we don't really look at it in that light. So.
Where are you now physically with everything? I mean, are you all done with? I mean, look, you're missing 2 legs, so I know there's still maintenance that has to be done. But where are you physically with everything?
No, I can do everything except for slam dunk a basketball. So, and I used to be able to do that, but I can't do that anymore. I look at it in this way: one, my feet don't get wet and they don't get cold, so
That's true.
I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy with it.
You live in Colorado, so there's probably a lot of wet and cold there at times.
Well, I'm moving back to Colorado.
Oh,
So I live in San Diego
okay.
right
All
now.
right, well.
Yeah, so I live in San Diego right now. So, so for me, it's I can do everything that I did before. Some things I don't do as good as I used to, but I still snowboard, I still downhill ski, I still play softball. I'll play basketball. I can dance my ass off. That's okay. The hips didn't have a problem, so I'm good there. And I'm good.
What'd you take away from the Marine Corps?
Best thing ever. I mean, what did I take away? Honesty, integrity, morals, ethics, everything, leadership, management, devotion, everything that, Marines eat and breathe. We still do that even after we, hang up the pack. So, I mean, I still stay in contact with all my Marine friends, and, I go and I try to help out the Marines whenever they're at. So one of my buddies is a second recruit training battalion at MCRD and Sergeant Major Hidalgo, and he says, "Hey, can you come and talk to the pork chop platoon and the broken guys?" And I said, "Sure, not a problem." I'm wearing shorts, and I'm like, "Okay, you want to talk about adversity? Here you go. Marine Corps, you get hurt in boot camp. Well, suck it up. You're fine. Just push through, get healthy, and then finish. You came here for a reason. Finish. Do what you have to do to get back there and be better whenever you go back into the cycle, and complete it, and then go through school and be that Marine. The biggest pride that you're ever going to have is earning that Eagle Globe and Anchor. Nobody can ever take that away from you. Nobody, no matter what, nothing. Nobody can ever take that away. You're always going to be a Marine. You're going to be in this family of the top 1% of the world, because you're a U.S. Marine. Not everybody can be in the Marine Corps, and you're the smallest service, but you're the hardest service. So you just keep going and you keep driving. And so then that's what I, would teach the young kids, and let them know that you welcome to the family at that point, and, just continue on.
Excellent words, John. I mean, honestly, it's just it's very well said, and it echoes and rings true with a lot of listeners of this podcast. Your service was certainly well documented, and as you've told us, everything that you've done and accomplished in the Marine Corps. And yet, it was what happened after your service, and a photo that circulated on Twitter, on the internet, where you were used, I guess, for lack of a better term, as a political prop. There's a photo of you in your dress blues, where the pants, I guess, are cut off at the knee, and we can see both of your amputated legs. You're sitting there with your hands folded on top of a small stool, and there was a picture of you, and this is after, let me just kind of bring it all together. That picture was used after Colin Kaepernick, the NFL quarterback, decided to take a knee during the national anthem. Obviously that was a source of consternation for a lot of people, both in favor of it and against it. But that picture was used as a prop by somebody who said, "I wonder what this brave American would give to stand on his own 2 legs just once more for the anthem." And then it was retweeted by the president, Donald Trump. And kind of tell me, when you saw that, what your initial feeling and reaction was.
Well, actually, it was funny because I didn't hear about it. I didn't even know that, because I'm not on Twitter and I'm not on anything. Because that photo was actually taken in 2006 for Alive Day Memories.
With James Gandolfini.
Done with James Gandolfini.
That was amazing. That was an incredible documentary.
Yeah, so that's where it came from. And then, everybody had always used that photo for their own, thing. Like the no regrets photo that came out. Well, a young Marine, she said, she put it in there. I don't remember saying that stuff, but whatever. Do I have any regrets? Nope. And would I tell President Bush, whenever I saw President Bush and met President Bush 41 and 43, do I have any regrets? No, I don't. about what happened. That's true. I don't have any regrets. So whenever this thing was done, my ex-wife, she gives me a call and she goes, "Hey, the Washington Post just called and they want to talk to you." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Oh, the president tweeted your photo." And I'm like, "Really? All right. Well, okay. Why did they get your number?" And she goes, "I don't know. It's in the records." I'm like, "Okay, good." So make it back to San Diego, and then my phone blows up. All my buddies are, "Hey, the president tweeted you," and I'm like, "Okay." And so then
You're going, what's a Twitter? How do I find it?
I'm like, whatever, okay, not a problem. And then people started to ask, and I was like, okay, great. I'm working for a nonprofit, a military charity nonprofit that gets guys jobs into manufacturing. So what did I do? I was like, okay, well, if this could help out the organization that I'm doing by getting vets jobs in a market that is so desperately needing people, yeah, I'm gonna use this to my advantage, at this point. And so they asked, and they said, "What do you think? Did you vote?" The first thing they said, "Did you vote for Donald Trump?" And I'm like, "What does my political views have to do with anything?"
Unreal, right?
And so then I'm like, actually, no, I didn't vote for him, and I didn't vote for Hillary. Who did you vote for? I wrote in General Mattis. Well, he's SecDef, so I think I won, right? And so they were like, "Oh, so you didn't vote for him?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for her. I voted for General Mattis. That's who I wanted to be my president."
Real quick, you want to hear something ironic? I wrote in a vote too because I didn't vote for Trump or Clinton.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I wrote in John Kasich. I just felt like he was the best candidate, and that's the one. I couldn't bring myself to vote for either one of them. And
yeah, so I mean, but you know what? And then they said, "Well, what do you think about it?" And I said, "Well, he's the president of the United States. He's the commander in chief. I respect the office of the commander in chief. If he wants to tweet my photo, he has every right as the commander in chief to tweet that photo. Go right ahead, sir. I'm a veteran, so I'm gonna still follow what the president asks, right? If Obama did it, right? Well, if Obama did it, I would have been like, well, he's the president of the United States. He can do whatever he wants, right? I mean,
right.
That's fine. Go ahead. Then they were like, well, what were your views on it? Of Colin. And I said, look, I kept, and I still have this stance, right? Of we as service members, we give everybody in America the opportunity to do whatever they want in a legal, lawful manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he does not want to stand for the flag that many, many Americans have died for and that have fought for this country, then that is his right as an American to do his own protest in his own manner, because we as service members give people, the civilians, that right to say what they want to say, do what they want to do, pray to, the Wicca Wicca people if they want to. We have that right, because that's what makes America great, is we can do that, and we can say things about the president or about our leadership and not have ramifications of doing that. We're not North Korea, we're not China, we're not, we weren't the Iraqi people that couldn't say anything about it, Saddam Hussein. We're not, we can't say anything about the Shah if you were a, of any other country. So that's my stance. He did it. Do I believe in, taking a knee for this country to, whenever our national anthem? No, but he has that right now. But he has to, live with that, consequence that he did. Well, he's not playing football anymore. Good, great. People said, no, we're not going to stand for that.
Sure.
So there you go. And that's the God's honest truth, that's why we wear the cloth.
Agreed.
That's why we do that. So, and not everybody's going to like that stance, but it's true. You rose your hand and put your hand on the Bible, and you made a solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Supporting it, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, all the way through, freedom of speech. Boom. That's a freedom of speech thing. I support the Constitution and defend it no matter what. So therefore, that's what he did. His freedom of speech, and that's what he wanted to do. So that's what he was able to do legally in America. So
I'm with you 100%.
you're welcome.
I've had this argument many times on Twitter with people. I mean, much like you, do I wish there was a different way for him to protest to get his point across? Yes, because the flag's important to me. The anthem is important to me. All this, it means more than just what the average citizen thinks it means. You know, when I see a flag draped over a casket of a dead service member, you know, that is something that is sacred to me, and that hits a chord with me. That said, his right as an American citizen, which, as you so perfectly articulated, that I have fought for, you have fought for, countless others have fought for, he can express himself the way he wants. I wish it was different. Yeah. It's not. I can't sit there and tell him how to live his life as an American. That's what makes our country so great, and what makes us who we are is that we don't tell each other how to live.
Right.
So, were you ever angry that you got caught up in this thing? Did it ever bother you?
Well, I got angry at the yellow journalism that takes your words and twists them to their political stance. That I hate.
How did that happen to you?
Oh, well, you know, taking words out of context. Like, you know, one article was like, said, I can't remember because it's been so long and I don't really care, but it was like one of those things of, oh, you know, he doesn't believe that, you know, Colin did anything wrong. And I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I said, well, you know, he has the right to do that. Was it wrong? In my opinion, yeah, it was wrong, but he has that right. You know, or he supports it, or, you know, and I'm like, you know, whatever. I mean, it's long gone, but that's just what it is. And now he's, you know, doing his stuff for Nike, and, you know, his stance with that. Well, I shame on Nike because he didn't sacrifice anything, right? He didn't sacrifice a limb. He didn't, you know, he's not a Paralympian. He's just a guy who got lucky with that. He had a God-given gift to be able to play football, and he was very athletic. That's his skill. That's his skill set.
Yeah,
right.
And I'm with you that it's the tagline that bothers me. You know, it's the sacrifice. He didn't sacrifice everything. He may have sacrificed his NFL career. That's not everything. He still has $40 million from his NFL career. Nike is paying him a handsome sum to endorse. He's going to be okay. Like, he's going to live a very good life. So him sacrificing everything is really a poor way to phrase it. I thought Nike missed the mark on that point.
Oh, of course they did. But, you know, that's some corporate, you know, guy that says, oh, this is great, you know, this is going to make millions. Well, whatever, because he probably never served, or she never served. So, you know, that's good. I don't buy Nike anyway, so it's all right. You know, for me, it's you know, but that's what I think Americans are so enthralled with what Hollywood and what the sports people are doing, but they don't care what the normal people are doing. What I mean, we're a country of, you know, reaction, not action, to make things right, and to, you know, I mean, we have a homeless problem, right, in America. Why don't we fix that? Why don't we fix, you know, the underemployment rate for veterans? Why don't we, you know, support the things that matter versus the things that don't matter? Like, I don't give a shit what Colin Kaepernick does. I don't care. I mean, whatever. I don't care what Khloe Kardashian does, and, you know, Omar and all. I don't give a shit. But we're so enthralled with those things as Americans that it's crazy how it is. But
well, let's talk about something you do give a rip about, and that's Workshop for Warriors, where you're currently working right now, a veterans advocacy group. Tell me about that, what they do, and you know, how we can help out.
Sure. Yeah. So I work for Workshops for Warriors. I'm the executive director of development. I basically raise funds for the program. So what this program does is it takes veterans and places them through, veterans and active duty service members, their last 180 days, and puts them through a training program. So we've taken a 2-year college program that you can become a machinist or a computer-aided designer and things, and we've condensed it to 16 weeks, right? So we've basically got rid of everything that they don't need to know about manufacturing, and we put them through a manufacturing training program. where they're learning SolidWorks, they're learning computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, they're writing G&M codes, they're doing trigonometry and geometry and advanced mathematics to create parts. So everything that you touch in your everyday life, from your vehicle to your phone to your house to your buildings to the airplane, has all been manufactured. So we have an issue in America of manufacturing labor gap in America.
Right.
So there's 2.3 million jobs unfilled right now in American manufacturing skill sets, right? Now, in another 5 years, we're going to have another 40% in reduction of qualified workers, because they're all 59 to 60 years old right now. And in 4 years, they're retiring. They're leaving the workforce. So that's going to be another 1.5 million people to 2 million people, because we don't really know the numbers, that are going to be out of work. So if the war machine has to come back up, who's going to build that?
Right.
We turned off that water faucet 75 years ago after World War II, and we started pushing college education, and we started pushing, get your higher education, because you're never going to be anything unless you have a college degree. And we started that in the 70s and 80s and really pushed it hard during the Reagan administration. Everybody deserves the right to go to college. Yes, everybody does deserve the right to go to college, but is college meant for everybody? No, right? So we take vets, we put them through, we put them through the program on the machining side and welding, because we have 680,000 welding jobs that are unfilled right now as well. Well, who's going to build the ships?
Mm-hmm.
Robots aren't going to do it. Humans are, right? To the airplanes. Who's going to build the airplanes? Robots aren't going to do it. Humans have to build the airplanes, right? So from that standpoint, this is what we've been doing for the past 10 years, is training people. We have 532 veterans that have gone through the program. They have over 3,500 nationally recognized credentials from the National Institute of Metalworking Skills and through AWS, which is the American Welding Society, for your card carrying being a welder, right? And then they go through and they're placed with a 94% placement rate throughout the country. So even though we're in San Diego and we have a school in San Diego that we're trying to build for $21 million to boost up from 120 veterans to 450 just on phase one, is because there's 17,000 veterans that get out of San Diego alone. Number one place for people to leave the military, because the Navy is huge here, the Marine Corps and the air stations, and the Coast Guard are all here in Southern California, and they're all getting out from here.
Right.
So with that, if I can touch 1,000 veterans, getting them through the program, and they're starting out at $20 to $25 an hour coming out of the school, well, they're making $40,000 to $50,000 a year, and then they're getting promoted 10 times faster, because manufacturing companies can't find people that can pass a drug test and be to work on time.
Yeah.
So these guys and these gals are getting promoted 10 times faster than their civilian counterpart. Then on top of that, you have the ability to go everywhere else. So Tesla has sucked up at least 10 of our people. SpaceX has 3. Fox Factory has a few. We have Oshkosh is looking at us. We have Ariel Corporation up in Ohio. They've hired our veterans, and Caterpillar has hired our veterans. Solar Turbines down here in San Diego has hired a lot of our guys, because they see the value added. We're the golden goose, because in 16 weeks they can come out with these credentials, and they know how to operate the machines, and they know how to weld very well, because all of our veterans that are the instructors, they've been there and done that, and they've bought that t-shirt, right? They're veterans as well. So they've been in the industry for years. We have all of our welding instructors are master chiefs and senior chiefs that are hull technicians and nuclear welders for the Navy. They came over because they couldn't get a job, because they did not have the AWS qualifications. Came to us, we found out, oh, you have 30 years of whole experience, yeah, would you be the instructor? Yes, we would, most definitely. And they're cranking out kids. I call them kids because they're younger than me. I'm 40. I'm 41 now. And they're cranking them out, and they're getting jobs. They're landing these things. And then whenever the students come and say, you know what, I don't know where I would have been if it weren't for this school, because once you get out of the Marine Corps or the Navy or the Army or the Air Force, your paycheck stops.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else. So we have Title 10 authority from the U.S. government to take active duty service members their last 180 days prior to getting out of the service, put them through a training program to get them a job on the backside. And the DOD is really pushing this, is because the Department of Labor said, you know what, DOD, we're tired of paying the unemployment rate for your veterans. You guys are going to have to fit the bill. So that's $3.4 billion that the U.S. government hands out every single year for unemployment. Okay, $3.4 billion. What could that do? That could get our planes that are deadlined out here up and running faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Well, that's why the Marine Corps and that's why the Navy is really pushing the Skills Bridge program to make it work, to do that, because their units are paying that bill. That cuts into the training costs.
John, what's been more fulfilling for you? Your time as a Marine, or what you're doing now in post-Marine life?
I think both were about equal, right? I was there serving my country and I loved it. And helping other people in service of people, and now being working for Wall Street warfighters whenever I first got out, to get guys jobs on Wall Street, to helping out with the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, and getting children education benefits to go to school was very important to me. I have 4 kids, so yeah, of course it's important. And then working here at Workshops for Warriors is really important, because you can see it, right? I mean, you can see whenever the guy gets his job offer, just getting out of the service, and he's like, wow, I'm gonna make $26 an hour starting.
Yeah.
So basically I went from $28,000 a year to $50,000 a year, just like that, on your first job out. That's providing for their families. They're able to do what they want at that point, and not live paycheck to paycheck like we did in the service.
I mean, it's amazing
stuff. So that's
stuff.
Rewarding.
Yeah, it's and I'm not very. It's kind of like asking to choose between your favorite child, right? I'm not asking. I know they're both rewarding in different ways. So from that standpoint, the impact you have now is just different. It may not be greater or lesser. It's just different than when it was.
Yeah, it's just different. But
Corps.
I'm still, I'm still tied to it, and I'm still helping out my brothers. So that's really good for me. Now, if I could be a starfish and grow my feet back, would I go back into the service? Yes, 100%.
You miss it that much?
Oh God, yeah. What other job is better? You're a grown man. You can blow stuff up, shoot machine guns, and live outside. I mean, come on. What's better?
Salt of the earth, man. Salt of the earth.
and you get to travel the world on somebody else's dime.
Right.
Which is even better. I mean,
you should just recruit from the Marine Corps. You're throwing a pretty good spiel out there.
I mean, for me, it's like I will eat and breathe and die the Marine Corps until I draw my last breath. And then hopefully I'll get reincarnated and I'll do it again.
No, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful stuff. It really is. But do you ever wonder what your life would be like had you not lost your legs? Do you think you'd still be in the same spot?
I would probably been a sergeant major or a Marine Corps gunner. So one of those two I probably would have been. So would I have, I probably would have done 8 tours to, the Badlands, to the Suck. But other than that, I mean, would have been better. I don't know. I mean, you can always look at what's the grass is like greener on the other side. Well, sometimes it's not. So, who knows, right? You never know. All I know is I'm here, I'm happy, I'm alive, and that's all that really matters. At that point, I get to, watch my kids grow up. So, and I think that's been the best thing is being there with the kids and letting them, have dad home all the time. That's probably the best win out of everything is being able to watch them grow up and go into games and, seeing that. Because my first two, my older kids, they didn't really have that because I was gone a lot. So that's what it's about.
Look, for somebody who we talked so much about sacrificing everything, right? For somebody who's lost a lot, you're telling us that you're living an amazing life and a blessed life. And from that standpoint, I'm truly happy for you. Obviously, you've changed a lot about your life and sacrificed a lot in losing your legs, but I think you've given yourself a lot more back in return. And from that standpoint, I think it's great to talk about. And with that, we certainly appreciate your time and your candor and your honesty, and you can really feel your love for everything that you've done both in this service and your life after. So, John Jones, we appreciate you being part of the Hazard Ground.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if anybody, listeners, is wanting to look at anything of where to give your money because you know where your money is going, go to wfw.org, Workshops for Warriors, and click on it and say, yeah, I'm going to donate because I know where that money's going. It's not like some of these other military charities where you don't know where it's going. You can see it every single day. And if anybody's in San Diego, come down to 2970 Main Street, take a look at the facility. If you're a vet, you need a job, come down. We don't turn anybody away. You go through the same process as everybody else, and hopefully you get in.
John Jones, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, hosted by Mark Zeno and produced by Matt Pasquarella. If you have an interesting story to tell and you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at hazardgroundpodcast@gmail.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.